Here is a 1500 series Cub Cadet that I just pulled the deck out of, and I have said for years that all these are is just glorified MTDs. And I take a lot of flack for it, but today we're going to see about proving it. So, I have always said the decks on these are glorified MTD decks. So here is a green MTD deck. Now this is even the series that had the up and over pulley assembly for the V-Twin series. So this came off of a V-Twin, I believe it was a Yard Bug, Yard Machine, something like that. And over here we have the deck that came off the Cub Cadet. There is a hole there. There is a hole right in there. The mounting bracket on this side, there is nothing holding it whatsoever. Now, if my theory is correct about MTD decks versus Cub Cadet decks, then I should be able to slice out a chunk and weld it in order to prop up that pulley and that connection there. I might even actually have a hole that lines up with that, I bet, on the MTD deck. And I'm going to bet I can do the same thing on that side. So the first thing we're going to do is get as much of this torn down that we can do without breaking it any further. And then we'll start figuring out what we want to cut up out of the MTD deck. There's our first cutout. I deliberately cut way further out than I thought that I actually needed to. On a side note, I really swear by these Blackhawk cutoffs, and I'll post up a link for these in the description. I tried to do this with some of the Porter cable cutoffs that I bought at Tractor Supply the other day because they were really cheap. I will never buy those ever again. I will be ordering up another set of those because they're just a waste of time. Hi, Fuzz. So, I know a bunch of you keyboard warriors are about to go and get on here about if I'm so sure that this deck will fit, then all I had to do was unbolt the spindles from one and bolt it into the other. Well, that's not exactly how spindles work up here in Maine in the Rust Belt. See, every single one of those snapped off except for one. So you can take your keyboard warrior self and exit the building. Now, let's take a look at this. That is looking extremely promising. I gotta trim it a little bit to get it to come down, and there's a bump here that's not in the older MTD. So this deck is an early 2000s. That deck is like a 90s style deck. So there's definitely been some revisions back and forth. But as far as that back mount and stuff like that, even a lot of these holes line up with existing holes. See, that one's all the way through. There's another one over here that's all the way through. There's holes there that line up. That one goes all the way through. So at this point, I'm going to cut this a little bit so it drops down in. There we are. We're starting to get things fitted up and in place. The MTD deck is basically pretty close to the same, except for what I ended up discovering was that certain sections of this are wider, and I don't know whether that's the year variant or whether they did change something, but as you can see, it's all patched around it. Got tons and tons of little tack welds to do, and then we'll put it together and we'll see if it'll actually cut some grass. Because I know it's going to be one of the questions, what I'm using for a welder is just a regular Forney welder that you can pick up. It's a 140. I ordered this one off of Amazon, and it works great for this kind of stuff. Except for do not use their welder wire. It sucks. I'll post a link down below for the welder wire that I use. It works much better. So as it is right now, we're starting to go and do some finish welds on the inside here. We're going to take this and we're going to weld in these pieces here so it's all solid, and just run a really quick line around that and run a quick line around that and paint everything. And then we'll put it back together and see whether this was worth the effort or not. Well, moment of truth time. Let's see if it'll kick over, and then I'll punch that deck engagement and we'll see what happens. So I wanted you guys to go and see that it's not perfect. I mean, why would it be, considering what I just put it through? But that is doing pretty good. Now this is damp, wet area and stuff like that, and it does seem to be favoring one side a little bit more than the other. I'll probably pull the deck off and check it one more time to go and see how level it is. Also could be that the blade on that side is having an issue, but I didn't exactly attempt to sharpen them very much, and considering the rest of the machine's condition, I probably should have double checked them. But there you go. As you can see, a Cub Cadet deck with an MTD freebie deck equals I can mow my yard and make the girlfriend happy again. Have a good day, guys.